The journey to development and growth is a little bit different for everyone, yet there are some things that are common to all of us. Today, we're going to unpack that for all you online entrepreneurs that are interested in development and growth here on the Resilient Faith Online Show. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? I'm so excited to be here today. Marisa Shadrick, online marketing coach and certified copywriter, here with my good friend Joseph. He is my guest today. Joseph, how you doing? Go ahead and
I'm doing
introduce
good.
yourself.
I'm
Yeah,
doing good. Thank you so much for having me, Marissa. My name is Joseph Bojang. I own a business where I help people with marketing funnels and advertising, but also have a deep interest. My master's degree is actually in human sciences. So really the things that allow people to get the results, get the success that they want in life. It's a deep passion as well.
that's awesome. And that's where all the insights come in for the development and growth and so forth. So I love it. So did you have an amazing background. Where did you start in the whole online space? Was it something, I mean, did you come from corporate or was it something that you just loved from the very beginning and started a business of your own?
Yeah, so I'll take us back a little bit. The first website I built was in 2001, and that's when I was doing a degree in IT. Um, but after that first degree, I actually went on and studied theology, then got my master's in human relations, which is kind of a human science degree. So whenever I graduated, I worked for years in nonprofit and I worked with a lot of homeless students. I worked in the community, but then on the side, I actually built websites for people. So I had like this freelance gig going on. And I think that's a lot of folks to where they have their normal 9 to 5, but then in the process, they're doing something on the side to make extra money. I think my first job out of college, I made around $19,000 a year. So I needed more money to pay for things. And that's why I did websites. And it wasn't until I had a job working for a school and I was there as a community school coordinator, loved what I did, worked with students. I was one of the only guys in the district. So it was just a unique position of being able to work with young kids that I really enjoyed. But it wasn't until someone said to me, I think you'd be a great principal.
Mm,
And that was the first time I thought I'm doing something because I love people and I want to see people have opportunities. And I think I'm in a unique position to help resource them. But at that same time, it made me realize that I was just living and almost drifting in as far as what I wanted my future to be. I didn't have any clear plans. I just knew I wanted to help people. And
mm,
when the superintendent said that to me, that was the first time I thought, well, what do I want to do? What do I want my life to be? And within a month, I put in my notice and I started my own web design business. Now, this is around 2011. And that's how I got into really getting into more marketing because people would come to me after I created a website and they would say, what do we do now? What do we do now
mhm.
that this website's up? And that's where I started helping people get traffic. But getting into business was not something that I thought I wanted to do as a kid. I never had any intention of doing it. It kind of just happened when I started thinking about where I wanted my life to be. And it just so happened that when I started shaping and influencing where I could, I started designing and creating the type of life that I wanted. I'm still doing that, doesn't stop, but that's how I got into online marketing and that type of business.
That's awesome. I love it that you took a step and that led to something else. I think that's so important. We hear that common theme that people are waiting to have it all planned out, all figured out, the 5 year plan. And yet, oftentimes we have to be pliable and allow things to kind of pivot and take its shape. And so I love the fact that you started with the website building and that was able to give you an open door to other things. And you've done
Yeah.
quite a bit. You've done quite a bit,
Yeah.
right? You've had some amazing
Yeah.
clients that you've served as well.
I have. And I'd say to that, I think a big point for other folks out there, I started a company twice. The first time, the one that I just mentioned, I had a business for around 3 weeks, I would say. And I learned a lot. And I say I had a business for 3 weeks because I launched so quickly. I got out there, I took action. I knew I could help businesses grow. But what I learned is that I didn't have any system for getting clients. I didn't have any system for consistently getting the type of services that I could get together in a month and get paid. But doing websites, sometimes you wouldn't get paid for 3 months. So there was a lot I had to learn. And I ended up getting one client that he kind of just brought me in and was like, hey, just work from us, do 1099 and you can be here. So even though I left a job and I started creating my own future or my own business, we could say it that way as well, I noticed quickly that I jumped out and I wasn't necessarily ready. So that kind of put me on a different journey to where I had to, kind of leave a relationship years later and actually start another business. And I think that was the time that I started coming up with the phrase of you need to James Bond your way out of a situation. Like you're
Mhm.
planning the exit routes, you're saving enough money, you have some systems in place so that you can kind of see where things will be. And since then, yes, I like you were saying, I have had some success. I've been able to work with some really big clients, but it the first time it didn't go as well. It didn't go as well, and I think I had a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And that was probably the biggest thing is that I found that you could be the most skilled person, you could be the best ad creator, copywriter, website developer. You could be the best at what you do. And that really doesn't matter as much as having great business systems or even developing to where you believe that you can actually go out there and get a client and sustain a business. And sometimes that is the only differentiator.
Hmm.
I like to think of McDonald's. They don't have the best hamburgers, but they're consistent. And if I
Hmm.
go to a McDonald's here and if I go to one in LA, they're probably going to be very consistent, but it might not be the best burger. And I think a lot of times people believe that since they can do something the best, that they should have a business that grows. And that's not always the case. And that's where that development comes into play.
Yeah, there's a lot of components, right? Um, Not only that, but our work is an extension of who we are. So everything about us on the inside has a lot to do with it as well. So you are such an expert with marketing. We're just going to be very pliable with this conversation because I don't want to pin you in a box because you have so much knowledge. Let's start with this. Do you see some common mistakes in marketing in general? You can take this in any direction you like, that is sort of like, oh, I wish they would know this. I see this all the time, that you can share with the audience.
Yeah, so I love how you set this up because I think of when people think of marketing, the best type of marketing starts within. And you were saying that there's so many things involved, but if I'm going to market something and I'm not really clear on who I am as a person, a lot of the times I send out mixed marketing messages or my marketing is very random because it's not coming from a very strong core or it's not coming from a very strong base. So a lot of the times I will see people start marketing and then they stop. And then it's random and then they stop. And then it's a campaign. And then 3 years later, they say it's not working. Marketing doesn't work for me. And I think the part that they're really missing is understanding that there are people just like you that want to buy from people just like you, but it takes consistency and a certain amount of time for that to get started. So let me use an example of right now, I think short form video is extremely important. So anyone that's listening, if you're not familiar with that idea, there's long form video where someone might be teaching you something over 20 minutes or 40 minutes. It could be a webinar, but then there's short form. Short form is the short TikTok videos or Instagram reels that you might see from time to time. That type of content is getting a lot of reach, meaning a lot of people are seeing it. But many business owners are having problems with creating short form video because they're not operating from their core. They're operating from this idea that I always need to present a certain way. But if they're presenting from who they are, they can get on social media and say, hey, today I'm taking a day off. And this is what I'm going to do on my day off. And if they just talk about that, there's people that are going to enjoy getting insight into their life, insight into a business owner that maybe they look up to. And it's not just the same type of content, it's giving some variety. But a lot of folks that I've seen will have, I'll say fear, but fear is probably maybe it's a mental barrier to
Mhm.
creating that type of content, the reason they have that is they don't create enough consistently. If you're creating enough content consistently, you have no problem just talking about your life or talking about something that's interesting to you. But if you don't create it consistently, when it comes up to share something that you think might not be as interesting, you have this roadblock and you don't want to do it. So I would say that's the number one thing. Because when I look at the industry now, anything I want to learn, anything I want to know, anything I want to do, I can Google it. I can get on YouTube. So the information's out there, but it really kind of it comes down to knowing who I am and what I want and being okay with letting those people be attracted to me.
Yeah, being completely vulnerable and being authentic. I love what you're saying because I totally understood that. Because sometimes I struggle with that. And I think I had that mentality that I need to prepare something, something that's listen worthy, where I can just show up as my authentic self. And then they get to know me. They get to know me, and then they'll be able to see if they can, when I do promote something or share something, see if we're going to be a good fit. So I
Hmm.
love that, and I enjoy it. I enjoy when I see it. So that's great. Can people see some of your reels on TikTok? What's your handle so that people can check it out?
Yeah, it's just Joseph dot Bojang on. You could just go to TikTok and search for that, or just search for Joseph Bojang. There's another one. I think it's a younger guy. Um, check out his profile too. But I don't know. He might have some videos there. But yeah, pretty easy to find me and to find content there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We'll make sure to put the links too to your Instagram too and to your TikTok so they can check it out and see you in action doing that. So that's awesome. That's great. I love
Yeah.
that. I think that is a big roadblock for people thinking that they have to create this, type of like mini training or something before they can actually turn on their camera and show up. And I think
Yeah.
life in itself has its own little lessons day to day that we could share something of that nature. Or we can share maybe some type of disappointment and how we're going to, navigate through all that and just show that we're human because we are in a business where we're in a people business, right?
Yeah. And I think as you're saying this, that the one thing that I've experienced is people have a difficult time teaching and educating others. And I talk to a lot of experts, but when you listen to them, sometimes it's hard to understand where they want people to go. And I know it's very popular now for everyone to have a system of how they help a person go from A to B. And I think that's important. And sometimes those systems are really meant and created with a lot of jargon. So I think in creating content, it's really helpful for experts and other folks to realize that when you know so much information, you can have a system. But if you're trying to appeal to a large audience, it's important to challenge yourself to talk about it in different ways. I remember when I was, this is years ago, and I would listen to Donald Miller's podcast. And one thing that he would do in there is he never had a recorded intro. Every time he would actually create a new episode. And I can't remember how he would do it, but it'd be something like, hey, thanks for listening to the branding podcast where we help you do this, this, and that. And then the next time he would say it a little bit differently. And I think the key takeaway there is that he was finding ways to say a message or really connect with people and consistently looking for new ways. He was growth mindset
Mhm.
focused. And I think if people can realize that it's really about the principles that we want to know, and it's okay to find different ways to explain those principles, and that gives you freedom.
Mhm.
But if you're locked into having to say things the same way, and you have your I'm Joseph, I help business owners get the best results they've ever wanted in 90 days, that's kind of hard to say in a genuine way.
Mhm.
But if you know what the principle is I help businesses grow, I can talk about that in a million different ways. And
Mhm.
I think that's the key for a lot of folks looking to develop their business or develop a brand. Really starts by one, understanding the principles that are important to you. That's why I keep saying inside, but then finding ways to communicate those principles in a lot of different ways. And
Yeah.
if you can do that, it's easy to create.
Can I ask you a question? When people have like, let's just call it a canned saying that they say all the time, does it become so predictable that people don't hear it anymore?
I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's hard for them to say, and you could tell they're trying to memorize it many times.
Hmm.
I think it's a helpful thing to have, but I think in how you communicate it is really the art and skill of developing that over time. So
Hmm.
one thing I say is I've always taught people to have an avatar when they do marketing, but I never enjoyed doing avatars for my own marketing. My marketing has always been about expressing my values, expressing beliefs and certain messages, and letting that attract the right people.
Love it.
And over time, they help you shape the message that you want. But the way I've taught something is not necessarily the same way I want people to implement it. And I think it's kind of that distinction. And I've written, page avatars and their name, their job, what they do. And that's very helpful for me to kind of understand who they are. So I know who I'm wanting to communicate to. But remembering all that information is a very difficult task. So
Mhm.
that's why I go back to, yeah, create it, have that, that way that you introduce yourself, have that, but at the same rate, be open enough to be pliable, to use your word,
Right.
and change over time.
Really important for development and growth. Is there any other like mistakes that you notice that are similar or something that you wish you people would know, or that one little tweak could help them out so much more if they did it a different way?
Yeah, I think now I'll probably just give a more practical, tactical
Hmm.
kind of tip is, um, my business is marketing funnels. And I think everyone, it seems, accepted a belief that if I create a marketing funnel, my business will grow. And that's really how a lot of companies have marketed: create your landing pages, have a thank you page, have an offer where it's a low dollar offer. And then from that point, you're emailing. And so a lot of people have gone out and done that, and their businesses haven't grown. And they find out it's difficult to get traffic there. So I think one of the things that I see often when people bring me in is they believe that once it's created, it's completed. And I think a marketing funnel is needed, but my favorite way for people to do it is to do it ugly, is what I always say. You want to do ugly marketing first to prove it. And then once it's proven, then you want to make it look nice and you want to add all the bells and whistles. So the best way to do an ugly marketing funnel, and this is the practical tactical here, and not
Hmm.
just like the theory, but the
Right.
best way to do it is to send out an email to someone. If someone is going after other businesses, if you're going after consumers, it's a little bit difficult, and there's other ways to do that. That's where short form video is great. But if you're going after other businesses, the best way is to send out an email with what would get people to the next step. So if you can't get people to open your email and you can't get people to click on a link, then that being in an ad, being on your Facebook page, being on your Instagram page is not necessarily going to work as well. So I like to first figure it out with free marketing. Free marketing is anything you can send for free. And in doing that, we're doing it ugly.
Mm.
Once it works in the ugly realm, then we want to add some paid advertising. So first you start with free, you just want to get it going, and then we want to move to paid. And in doing paid marketing, we know it works because we know that people are opening our emails, they're responding to our direct messages. So when we put that same message on a paid platform, we know what results we're going to get, and we know what's going to be successful. But a
Yeah.
lot of people start by building the funnel first and then hoping it works. And that's a really hard way to do it. And for most people, it doesn't work.
Hmm.
And I would say that's probably one of the mistakes, is not testing it for free before they spend all the money to get it built and then find out, well, this didn't work. And then they feel lied to, their resources have been zapped, their money has been spent. And that's a difficult thing to come back from. So I always recommend do it ugly first, do it free, and then you want to invest resources later.
That is such good advice because it's so true. And there's so many components to a
Mm,
funnel. that's a lot of time, with just doing it thinking, oh, this is what everybody else does, and see that it doesn't work. So I love the idea of, and I think also with testing, I think also what you were saying about sharing things on TikTok or on Instagram Reels, you get feedback from time to time from the audience, or doing a podcast. And oftentimes that's an indication of where you've hit a nerve. And maybe, now correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's just a matter of tweaking, the headline or the first line of the email or the subject line, and not really changing the content at all. Maybe it's
Mhm.
just the way you approach them with the content, just based on the feedback you're getting from podcasting people.
Absolutely. I got a great story of that actually. So when I first started, my second time starting a business, um, I went out and I marketed in a way that was consistent with me. I'm not a hype driven
Yeah,
person.
no,
I'm
me
not
either.
super salesy.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I wanted clients that are similar to me, that they want good ideas, they want to implement them systematically, and they want to look at if this is successful or not over time. So I remember the message that I was tweaking. It was different for different industries, but I finally kind of got the wording right, got what people were going to respond to. And I just said, I can help you get 10 to 15 leads per month. All the people that were doing what I was doing were saying, we can get you over 100. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, well, that's great for them, but that's not what I can do. And I know I want to go to sleep well at
Yes.
nighttime. I don't want to be stressed out and I don't want to overpromise.
Yeah.
And I remember the first client I got that way, and they were in Brea, California, and I'm in Oklahoma. And I just remember I asked them as soon as we got on the phone, I said, so what made you respond to the email and book an appointment? And her response was, well, you just seemed honest. Everyone else overpromised, and you said you can get me 10 to 15. And that sounded like believable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was it. And that was the messaging. And that was actually confidence boosting as well, to know that I didn't have to do what everyone did,
Mm-hmm.
that I could do what was in my scope and what I felt comfortable with, and that there would be people that would pay me the same amount um, for what I could actually do.
Yeah.
And I find now that most of my clients stay with me from 3 to 4 years. So it's working, and I think that's important for other people too. Is that part of the business aspect is not just about doing the marketing task and showing up and creating videos, but it's actually tapping into who you are.
Mm.
And who we are, I think it changes over time as we have kids, as the kids move out, as we have different interests. So I think this is something that's always going to be developing in our life, but we just have to take time to make sure that we're coming from a core of who we are.
Yeah. Now you just mentioned very quickly about your kids. Now I know when we met, we were staying at the same hotel attending a conference, and you gave me a ride. You were so gracious because you were leaving to catch the airplane, and you had a flight, and I had one too, and you just couldn't wait to get home. So tell me a little bit about your family, your wife, your kids. How
Yeah.
many kids do you have?
Yeah. So I have two kids and they actually work in the business. They are my paper shredders, and every time I need to move stuff around the office, and my
Oh, how
both
old
of
are
them,
they? How old are they?
9 and 7. My daughter is
Oh,
9 and my son is 7, and they really enjoy actually helping me make content. So they love to give me ideas. So that's one way that I include them in the business, and they give me ideas. They're like, "Hey, Daddy, you should talk about this. Hey, you should talk about this, and you should do this thing." So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, they help me a lot, and been married for 16 years to my wife, and I think it's a big thing to. I'll say this: whenever I was starting out, I was very aware of who I listened to. And actually, most of the people that were my biggest business advisors were all women. And the reason why is a lot of the men I didn't have much in common with, because they weren't really like involved with their kids as much. they kind of had jobs in certain cities where they were all around each other and they kind of had that same kind of network. But a lot of the women I was listening to, like Marie Forleo and the Barefoot Foot Executive, she had like 5 kids, worked from home, and one thing I learned from them is I wanted people that were doing this in addition to other things, and also being involved with their family. So I'm actually glad you said this, so I get to talk about this. But that was a real big thing for me is in my development, in my business growth, is actually finding people that had the type of life, family life, not just making the income, but have the family life that I wanted to have, that I wanted to be able to go to my kids' school and watch them, do a dance competition. And that's part of, being a business owner, of being just a human being for me, is being involved in my family's life. And business is a way that, or being an owner
Yeah.
of a business has been a way to do that.
You sound like an amazing daddy and husband.
Thank you.
I know we were both kind of antsy to catch the flight and go home and see our loved ones.
Yeah.
We were both a little
Yeah.
antsy. So I know that you've got so much knowledge, and all of this has been so helpful. I do want to, in the last bit, if there's anything that you want to recap about common mistakes, feel free to share. But I do want to look at what you're working on moving forward and talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So I would probably say the biggest thing is it does come back to what you started with, is growth. And starting a business for me was primarily about growth and about shaping my life the best that I could. I think everyone has different circumstances and different capabilities in what they can do, and even the way success looks. I like to think of success as getting a result that you want. So that result can be weight, it can be health, it can be whatever. And that's always been the main driver for me, is to help resource people go after the things that are important for them. And when I think about that, marketing is an aspect of that. And that if there's anything that's important to a person's life or their business, or even a promotion at work, there's a certain element of letting people know what you stand for, what you would like to do, and then communicating that message in a way to where people are actually willing to listen to it and potentially take action. And marketing has been a way for me to provide my bills, but helping people has always been, I would say, the real driving force. So I would say the biggest thing is, if anyone's interested in growing something, getting themselves out there into the world in a way to impact or influence, I would say connect with me. I'll be launching a membership, and part of that membership will have tons of marketing courses. Like, that will just be a part of it, because people need that. But really, it's about having a community of people that are all trying to create something in the world, make it better for their kids, their families, and for the future. So that's where things are headed for me. I'll be writing a book. A lot of this will be based um, in just some principles that that I found, and from other folks that I'll be using to really help people understand different ways to grow and to develop.
Yeah. And you were featured also in Visible. I did have Paul Klein on a previous podcast. You want to tell us a little bit about that? Because you were featured.
Yeah, they're the Netflix of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that was a great time, and I got to talk about my company and some of the same ideas. And one that I shared there is this idea of a North Star and South Star. And the North Star, a lot of the times, is the thing that we know we want, um, but we don't always know what we want. So there's not always a North Star. It could be vague.
Mm.
Sometimes there's a South Star, and the South Star is what we don't want. And so I talk about that in my business, where there's times where I don't exactly know what I want, um, but I know what I don't want. I don't want someone calling me at 9 p.m. about something that's insignificant to their business or mine, but having access to me at that point. So there's things that you start
Yeah.
figuring out, and understanding that concept was really important for me to share there.
Yeah.
But
That
yeah.
sounds you like you're talking from experience.
Yes.
When you say
Yes.
that,
Yes.
not to call you at 9 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. If people are calling you 9 o'clock at night, it's time to reconsider things.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. That's the thing about business. That's the thing about just working a job. Like it's not always about creating your own company. It's about doing work you love. And
Yes.
sometimes um, we have these desires and dreams, but we find out there's parts of it that we don't like. And well, how do we start forming and shaping those to be more of what we do like? And there's this guy. He actually passed away a few years ago, but he wrote a book about hope. And in that book, he talks about the people who love their jobs are the ones that were hired for a role that they formed into something they loved. So
Mm,
not many people that love their jobs have a job that was just out there. They had to actually create it into something that they love. And I think that's what we have to do with our jobs, with our businesses, and just with our life. And I would say that's the message that I'm trying to help people do for themselves.
that's awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, Joseph is just a walking book of knowledge. He's always calm like this when you talk to him. He's nice
But
because I tend to be on the hyper end and he calms me down. So he's
so this
awesome.
is funny. I hear that so much. I have to go back and start listening to myself
You
because,
just have this soothing voice that
huh?
is just so calming. It's awesome. But
Okay.
got a radio voice. No, but in any event, okay. So how can people connect with you? Let's. I'll put this in the show notes, but let's
Mhm.
tell them exactly. And do you launch this periodically, or can they just connect with you for
No,
conversation, or
yeah,
what? What's the
yeah. So
process?
the best way, honestly, if anyone's interested, would just be, and you could sign up for my list for a month and then unsubscribe. That's fine. But the best way would really be to go to the website and sign up just for any of the lead magnets, so that when I send out the first email, it will be the way I'm launching this will be something to where it's almost like a no-brainer that, like, if you just don't eat out 2 times a month, you can afford it, and I will add tons of value.
Mm.
But the best way is just to go to josephbojang.com, and you can sign up for any of the lead magnets that I have there to get on the list. And then when the email comes out, depending on if this podcast is out or now, maybe I can do a special for people that um, might have heard this podcast after the launch. But yeah, going to the website is the best way to connect with me,
Sure.
or check me out on TikTok.
We'll work it all out. That sounds awesome. Any last words for the audience?
No, just thank you to you for
Oh,
having me on here. And it's always nice to connect with you again. And I can say for folks that are even considering, anything that I've said for marketing funnels, for assets, you always need to think about it a certain way. So if you find that you are struggling with that, connect with Marissa. I don't even know if you do coaching calls like
I
that, but
do.
I'm recommending it now.
I do
um,
coaching call. I do business coaching and copywriting coaching and then done for you as well. But yeah, thanks for that. I
yeah, no,
appreciate
and I
that.
really mean that. I really mean that because I think it's hard to come up with ideas that are inside of you, but having someone else ask you questions and
Yeah.
having to create and exchange those ideas with another person is really when you can start moving forward with creating content. And that's the same for me, is that whenever I get stuck, I need to talk to a copywriter or talk to someone to
Mhm.
help me, start getting these ideas outside of my mind where they're clear, but then I
Yes.
say it and I'm like, oh, I guess that wasn't a great idea. So, so yeah, I would just say thank you for having me, getting to meet you and knowing what you do. You're an author, you're a writer, and I think everyone that's listening could definitely benefit from relationship with you as well. So, thank you for
Oh,
having me here.
thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. You're going to love Joseph's content. I will encourage you to sign up for one of his lead magnets. I will have all the links in the show notes so that you can follow him on Instagram and TikTok as well. He's a good guy because I only have nice people on my podcast, and he's one that is really a good guy, nice family man. We just connected so well. So thank you everyone for joining us. Take care. Bye bye.